Welcome back to Forensics Detailing. Today we're going to be making our own car show wax.
Walk with the rich, walk with the poor. Learn from everyone, that's what love is for. Don't let nobody drag your spirit down. Well, we're walking up the heaven, Lord. Don't let nobody turn you around. Well, I might say things sound strange to you. I might preach the gospel. I believe it's true.
Okay, so there it is. So naturally occurring waxes, there are a limited amount of them out there. You know, you have your naturally occurring carnauba wax, which is extracted from the leaf of some plant in Brazil, you know, and makes this rock hard kind of flaky wax thing. You have other kind of flower-based ones like the candelia wax. You have the montan wax, which you get, I think, from coal. You know, it's a carbon derivative or something like that. You know, you have beeswax. You know, made from bees. God knows how. I don't know if they puke it up or God knows what they do. I don't care. So you've got a limited amount of naturally occurring waxes, and I'm sure there's loads more that I've missed there. The main ones that are used in the automotive industry are your carnauba waxes, your beeswaxes, your montan waxes, your candela waxes, and I think those paraffin type waxes as well, which is another one that they use. So today we're starting off, we're trying to keep this simple. So we're going to be making our waxes from a mixture of T1 grade carnauba, which is the kind of wax which is known for being tough and durable, okay, with beeswax, which is a very soft, well, this bag smells just like a crunchy. God, it smells lovely. You can eat this stuff, don't eat it. So we're going to be mixing this is a softer kind of wax which helps deliver the carnauba, apparently. You know, I don't know any of this. This is all stuff I've read. What I lack in knowledge, I make up for in being able to surf the web like a ninja. So we're keeping it simple. Later on we might throw in some more waxes, but at the moment organic beeswax, and it's in big blocks, which is not good, so I'm going to have to break that down somehow into smaller pieces, and T1 grade carnauba wax. Okay, so that should hopefully focus in. I've got 500 grams of each. So the first problem you face when you're making a wax, so the wax is what gives the protective coating, you know, a durable, protective, repellent coating on the car, you know, and waxes are used to do the same thing for furniture and provide protective coatings for all sorts of other things other than cars. So the problem you have with these waxes is how do you take this lump of wax and distribute it out in a thin film over your car panel? Okay, so obviously you need to have this in a more liquid or dissolved form. So that's your first problem you need to solve. So we melt these waxes down and we mix them with other products to be able to distribute them or deliver them, apply them over our clear coats. And now we're going to talk about those other products now. So the first other ingredient you need to mix in with your wax are solvents, okay? So there are a range of different solvents. So solvents are, and again, I'm not a chemist, I know bugger all about chemistry, so I'm just putting out what I've kind of learned. So solvents are chemical products which break down the bonds in solid objects and they break those bonds down so those objects become liquid, okay? Now that's the basic function of the solvents here, to put the wax into a less solid form so it can be distributed. Now the problem is we have a whole variety of solvents with different chemical characteristics, different strengths, you know, different strengths, the way they attack those bonds and break them down. Solvents are also prone kind of to evaporating in air, okay? So they also have different kind of rates at which they evaporate. So the one thing I picked up quite quickly is people say that when you start out in this process, if you're just using one solvent, you don't tend to get all the characteristics you need. So you have to make a blend of solvents, and that blend can typically consist of what they call a heavy solvent and a light solvent. So the heavy one won't evaporate as quickly, you know, but it will. So that the fact it doesn't evaporate as quickly means obviously it's not your wax isn't going to cure. So while the solvent is present in the wax, it's keeping it less solid, more liquid, more paste-like. When the solvent evaporates and disappears, the wax goes back to its solid state. So you have a mix of solvents to provide you with a characteristic that you want, which is a portion of that solvent evaporating quite quickly, so that you start getting your wax, you know, bonding to that clear coat within a few minutes, ideally. But you don't want your whole solvent mix to be that lightweight one, because if you take the jar off there and it starts vapping out, you're going to have a tub of candle wax, you know, after taking the lid off. So you want a range, essentially. Now, there's all different solvents, and that was one of the first things I started looking at. Now, the first kind of most common form of solvent is a petroleum distillate. So in other words, when they distill crude oil, you know, you get petrol, you get all these other things, you know, and you get one of those substances in that kind of, you know, what's it called, like a diffraction chamber or whatever, where they bottle this stuff away. One of those substances is a mineral spirit, a petroleum distillate called naphtha, okay? And I believe that's what this particular one is here. This is naphtha mineral spirit, and it's a low odor version. So in the UK we call it white spirit. In America they call it mineral spirit, but it's basically naphtha is the chemical name, or naphtha or something. So one that I think you should go and get is a low odor white spirit, okay? So that's our first solvent, and that's a more of a heavy solvent. And this is going to hopefully, for our first test that we do, this is going to form the majority of the heavy solvent. I don't know exactly what yet, somewhere around 70% at least. So it doesn't smell quite as strong as the other ones. It's still got a bit of a kick to it though. Okay, so another low odor solvent, which is I believe a petroleum distillate, is kerosene. So that has slightly different properties to the naphtha, or the white spirit stuff. So this is low odor kerosene that you can buy from art stores, that sort of stuff. So I've got 500 millilitres of low odor kerosene. I think I'm going to use that in our first blend as well. Another one that I'm going to try is acetone. So this is used in nail varnish remover. You can kind of always smell that sort of stuff, very easy to get hold of. So it's a degreaser. It's a solvent basically. I don't know how effective this stuff's going to be. I don't know if it's heavy or light. So I'm going to have to play around with this stuff to see how we get on with that. And another one here is, this is also naphtha, you know, or white spirit, but it's a light version of it. So it's basically lighter fluid, okay? So this evaporates a lot quicker. So it's a petroleum distillate. So we're going to be putting some of this into our initial mix to try and get that to vape out quicker, so we can get a bit of fast bonding going on, okay? I'm sure I've got some more solvents on the way, but that's it on the solvent front for now, okay? Yeah, also if anyone, you know, has been doing this, because there's some people out there that have done this and walked this path and played around with this. I need help with this. So any knowledge, any information, throw it at me. The more information you can throw at me, the better this is going to be, and the more time you're going to save us. But also on the flip side, there is an element of me that wants to kind of play around with this stuff and learn. You know, it's not just about getting to the end. It's about having fun on the way. Bit of a cliche there, you know, bit of wisdom, but it's true. I want to have some fun with this. Okay guys, so as well as just a wax, a tough kind of lump of wax and a solvent, so you don't just melt your wax down, mix it with solvents. If you did that, your product would still be too kind of stiff and hard. You need a third ingredient, which is called a carrier. So carriers are typically oil-based substances that are used to kind of primarily to transport the wax. So you mix it in with the melted wax, and that will soften everything down, and it will make the wax easier to work and use, and it will also provide a little bit of gloss as well when you lay it down, apparently. Again, this is what I'm reading, so if I've got any of this wrong, let me know. We're going to be using a few different types of carriers. Some essential oil ones, really. I want to go for purity on these carriers. So the first one we're going to be using is coconut oil, so this is 100% pure coconut oil. Lovely stuff this is, I'll tell you. This stuff, like the missus uses it. The missus uses it and she has it on her toast, you know, in the morning instead of, you know, she rubs it on her head. You can eat this stuff, it's bloody lovely. And we happen to have a few tubs of this kicking around, so I've nabbed one, and hopefully she won't notice. So that's coconut oil. Next thing we've got here is sweet almond oil, 100% pure almond oil. Okay, so you didn't smell it much, so that's going to be one of our carriers as well. We're going to experiment on these. We also have orange oil, orange zest oil, which is actually a solvent more than a carrier as well, from what I understand. So we're going to try using this solvent in some of our blends. We have pine oil, which again, like the olive oil, I think is an essential oil. Yeah, which smells beautiful. God, you would know, you'd recognise that if it was in any waxes from the smell. You know, it really got that strong eucalyptus kind of piney thing going on. And another one that I want to try is a naturally occurring kind of fatty substance made from wool, I think, and it's called lanolin. It almost looks like a grease. And the reason I want to try this is because I can smell that I think it might be in one of the waxes that I'm looking at. So I don't have any knowledge of this or expertise. So one of the things I can do is take a wax that I know is a market leader and look at it, and look at the characteristics of it, and look at especially what happens to it when you just leave it and dry, how hard it goes, how much wax is in there, how much oils are in there, and how much solvents are in there. And I think they were using, a few of them might be using this lanolin as a carrier, so I wanted to have that in our setup. Okay, some other things I've got is I have some fluorescent dye there, because I thought it might be interesting to colour the waxes. I won't do that at first, but maybe later on. I also have lots of different scents. I have almond oil, I have chocolate chip cookie, I have bubble gum. I don't know why I bought that one. Bubble gum. To try that. And I even tried the old cannabis one. I thought that'd be funny to see what that smells like. Doesn't smell nothing like cannabis, not that I know. But yeah, so that's just a bit of fun. I'm not going to mess around with waxes and scents, with scents and colours until I've got a good wax going, because that's just a waste of time. What else do we have? We have a very cheap electronic scales that you can pick up for a tenner on eBay, so we can measure out stuff, you know. I have a spoon to mix stuff with. I have these syringes to measure solvents into the mix. So again, you get these off eBay. It's a 100mm measuring syringe. That's a 3mm measuring syringe for smaller volumes. I have a little Pyrex jug for melting the wax. A big Pyrex jug for melting loads of wax. 1 litre measuring jug. I talked about waxes. A funnel. Some little cosmetic pots to hold the waxes so you can get them airtight and seal them up. And I got these from ampulla.co.uk. I bought 5 of them so we can actually store the wax once we got a good one in a proper good little wax container. I also nicked a load of these off the missus, so they're all little plastic pots. So when we're doing all our test runs, we can put them in here and seal them up, you know, because it's going to be too expensive to just be making, while we're testing them, you want these cheap containers you can just plonk them in. Okay, so today we're going to be making our first wax, and we're going to go in there in a minute and melt down the wax. These are my Bibles, 2 bits of paper covered in all sorts of scribbles and God knows what. And deciding on our first recipe to start with. So I'm going to be making these in small 50-gram samples each time, so I can save product. If I go for 100 grams, what I think is going to happen is I'm going to be making a lot of unusable waxes for the first probably at least 10 goes, I reckon. Although we're going to try and come up with something. But I have my recipe here, so it's all in 50 grams. So the first recipe I think I'm going to be going with is 14 grams of carnauba, okay, 2 grams of beeswax, so this is a carnauba heavy one, okay, 17 grams of solvent, and then we'll go into what's in that solvent, and 17 grams of carrier oils. Okay, so I've got 16 grams in total of waxes, 17 grams total oil, and 17 gram total solvents, which makes 50 grams. So 14 carnauba, 2 beeswax. Then for solvents, we're going to go with 10 grams of low odor white spirit, mixed with 5 grams, which is probably too much, but we'll try it anyway. 5 grams of lighter fluid and 2 grams of odorless kerosene. Okay, and then with our carrier, we are going to start off with 12 grams of coconut oil and 5 grams of almond oil. See how we get on with that. So what I'm going to do now is mix these up. Once these are melted completely and you've got like a pure liquid, we want to mix our solvents and carriers in, I believe. If I don't heat the solvents and carriers up, when I tip them into there, it's going to drop the temperature below and it will go like a lava lamp where you can see your wax in the middle. And that's bad because you want the wax to be evenly mixed with all the solvents and carriers. So our solvents and carriers also needed to be heated up. And that's something that you've got to be very careful about. These are flammable components, so I don't even want to take them into the house, to be honest. I've got open gas. So what I'm using is I'm going to boil up water to 100 degrees, you know, and then I'm going to have a little tub of solvents, and I probably need to get something better than this, and I'm just going to sit my solvent and oil mix in that tub of boiling water in here to get it as hot as I can without boiling it, so that if I can get it up to 75 degrees, something like that, which should be doable, when I pour it in, my wax isn't going to insta-go boom like a candle. So that's one thing I've been told to watch out for. So I've got a feeling if anything's going to go wrong, it could be this side of it. So we're ready with our wax. Let's put that to one side. Now I need to get my solvent done. So we turn this on. So there is our solvent mix. I can already see it melting those oils. So now we have our raw ingredients, solvent and carriers and wax. We are ready to go and melt this wax and heat this up. Okay, come with me. Jesus Christ, get in there, you bastard. Oh, fucking hell. Okay. Will that do as a camera position? Okay guys, well, one very important health consideration here. Do not do this when the missus is around. Because they will kill you. And the chemicals are quite dangerous as well. Okay, yeah, seriously, one thing, the solvents are flammable, okay, highly flammable. So they are not going to go anywhere near this open gas hob. So the first thing I'm going to do is boil up water and put these away in another room, just to melt in that hot water to get them up in temperature to above 75 hopefully. And other thing that I want to do is when I've got my solvents and waxes hot and I mix them together, I then want to suspend, when they're in a nice even mix, okay, I then want to suspend that concentration as quickly as possible, so it's a good consistent mix. So I want to cool it quickly, so I'm going to get a bowl of cold water full of ice, so that once I've mixed this all up, plunge it in there and see if I can solidify it quickly. Hopefully that will stop layers. So I don't know how long this is going to take to melt down. I've got to imagine it's going to be a fair few minutes. You don't want to get any wax into your saucepan, because I should imagine that's going to be a bit of a problem. I'm just going to bring you in, if I can, to show you there. That mix now is a pure liquid wax, okay? So I don't want to overheat this, so I'm just going to turn that heat down a little bit. I'm probably going a bit too aggressive here with the heat, but I don't know, you know, I'm guessing. So let's get ourselves into some mischief there. This is all hot, so you've got to be careful. Right, that's bubbling away nicely. So what I'm going to do is actually just turn that off, and the residual heat in that water should keep that nice and liquefied. so here is our solvent. The gas is all off, okay? I'm going to take this out of here. So this solvent, well, has melted all the, how hot is that? Warm. So I think this solvent probably needs to be hotter, but let's go with this. So what I'm going to do is tip this solvent, this warm solvent mix, into our wax. We're filming this, yeah, okay, here we go. So boom, yeah, it's solidified, but let's give that a quick search. It's gone white, but it's still liquidy. That's good. That's good, but some of it, that has dropped the temperature, no doubt. This is probably some of the alchemy, so I need to, actually that's good. So I'm really going to try and mix all this together. If you how much of that you can see, this is probably quite an important thing to capture. So if I put that here, move this camera around so you can see it. Get out of it, you little bugger. Why aren't you twisting? Oh, where is it? Oh, it's here. Okay, there we go. Too many things going on here. Right, let's give that a little bit of a tweaky zoom. Okay, so what you can see there is this is liquefied. So it's just about got away with this, I think. Although some of that wax is wanting to solidify. So this is one thing for me to learn. I need to get these solvents a little bit hotter, I think. Although I've just about got away with it. So now I've got, let's get this nice and evenly mixed. What I want to do is I'm going to pour it back into here and then plunge it in the cold water while it's all mixed up like this. So this is the fun bit. Right, it's a bit where you learn all the little things like this thing. Right, now that's pretty hot, but so don't try this one at home. What I'm going to do is take it out of the pan with my asbestos fingers. Okay, how hot is that? I can do that, I can do it, I can do it. Jesus, maybe not. Right, here we go. Yeah, okay. Right, so let's get that out of the way. So let's move this around here. We have our nice hot thing going on here. Actually, it's mixed down quite nicely, but that's something I need to improve on and get this completely smooth and water-like, you know, no little chunks in there. Now we have it mixed. We're going to tip that in here. In we go. And we're going to cool this off now to solidify it. So let's put the lid on so none of the solvents get out. And in we go to our cold water. Let's pull that over there. So I can see as soon as I put this in the cold water, it's, the top of it's starting to go more opaque and white, and it's cooling down. So if I just plonk that on the top, yeah, that's cooled it. So hopefully that's like locked whatever kind of mix we had into place, which is going to help us get a more consistent wax. That's the theory. That's the theory behind the BS. And one other thing we're going to do is we are going to make notes on all this. So forensic, what should we say? Forensic formula, that sounds good, doesn't it? Forensic formula number 1. Stardate 001. 001. Notes. Solvent needs to be hotter. Solvent hotter. So I need some way of heating that solvent up in a slightly safer way. And I can't get it anywhere near heat, so I'll have to think about something there. Some sort of electric heater or flask or something, you know. We'll get on the Bunsen burner and all that shit and start going Breaking Bad. That's going too far. I need a nice easy way of just heating that solvent up a little bit. Probably could do with a better mixer as well. Better mixer. Better. I'll get the thermostat out as well. Get thermostat, so I'm not guessing. Thermostat out. And then we'll have to, the rest of the comments will be checking the wax afterwards. Okay guys, Captain's log, brew date 001. We have our first iteration of forensic formula 001, and here she is. Let's get that thing zoomed in. Come on, you little swine. Zoom in on this, not me. Okay, so I'm going to take you off the tripod and come in and have a proper look at this wax. Okay guys, so we're shooting here. Yeah, we're shooting. So this is Forensics Formula 1. Okay, what's to say about it? I'm going to go just ahead and test this now, but this is just my initial thoughts. So I'm trying to get some sort of show wax thing, you know, similar to R22, which I love. Okay, so this has got a slightly grainy, sort of like, it's like greasy butter consistency, but you can feel the graininess in this, which I think you get when you've got quite a high wax content, or maybe a carnauba content. But it's quite buttery and it's quite oily, this, and it's hard to smell the solvents. Okay, so this wax, let's just wipe my finger so don't contaminate my one. This wax, it's also got that slight butteriness to it. I don't know if you can see that, and it's definitely got that slight graininess to it. And it's giving a little bit as well, actually. The consistency of this wax of Forensic Formula 001 is not a million miles away from this, actually. I'd say this feels slightly more grainy, more like crunchy icing sugar. Although this is quite grainy as well. You know what, this isn't bad in terms of how it looks. So I don't think we're a million miles away from a good balance here. I think there's just, yeah, this wax is harder than that wax, definitely, more candle-like, I guess. So I wonder if I need to slightly reduce the amount of wax against the amount of oil. So up the amount of the carrier, perhaps. But this is not bad, I tell you. You wouldn't know this was like some amateur thing when you first use it. So, you know, it's got that nice buttery, grainy feel to it. And we've got a good amount of carnauba in here, so this might actually function. So let's get this on a panel and test them. But actually, before we do that, one thing I always like to have a look at is I just want to take a piece of my wax and I just want to scoop that out there, and I want to kind of mould that into a little ball. Yeah, it's got a good consistency. It's quite buttery. It's quite a bit crumbly, but so is that. And I just want to drop that onto this piece of paper toweling. Okay, clean that off. And do the same with this one. This definitely feels more like sand, this one, which is interesting. And it's, yeah, they've got a similar kind of, this feels a bit greasier. Yeah, it definitely feels, this one feels a bit greasier. So I think I need to up, just not a million miles, but I just think I need to up the amount of carrier oils I've got in mine. Because this, I think, is a bit carnauba heavy, because it's harder, perhaps slightly drier and not as greasy as that one. It's probably hard for you to pick this up in the camera. So what I'm going to do is get all that back in place. You know, I don't have the expertise in this wax kind of thing to know immediately what to go for, so I have to compare with something, you know, and so I'm comparing with one I really like, which is the R22, and I favour the R22 slightly over Pete's 53 in terms of finish. I think it's very hard, but so what I'm going to do is just get these a little bit cleaner, get all this wax up. Messy stuff, I tell you. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get a pen. So that's right down here, FF001 and R222. And what this test here will allow me to do, so it will allow me to keep an eye on both of these, and what I'll probably see is the oils that are in here get soaked up in the paper. And the same for this, and it'll give me an idea if I see a big ring of oil. It'll give me an idea of the different levels of oil, and I think I need to increase the amount of carrier oils in this slightly. One other thing that I can notice, the smell of this, it smells a lot more solvent heavy. Yeah, it is. My one I think is solvent heavy compared to this R22, so I think I might need to play around with the lower the wax, the carnauba content slightly, and up the beeswax content slightly to get to not be so hard. Although it is, I've got to do this very carefully because this is butter-like, so I don't want to go too far. You know what I mean? This is. Let me get down here so you can focus. This is definitely buttery and nice. So it's not a million miles away, but I want slightly more beeswax, I think, and slightly less carnauba. I want to up the oil content, the carrier content, over the solvent content, I think. And that's just my initial thoughts. So I'm going to make a note of this, and again, I'm guessing. So I'm going to write this down now. Let's go and write this down. And what I want to do now is also test some of this. So I'm just going to cut the camera out. Okay guys, so I just wanted to summarise what we've learnt with Forensic 001. So what I've learnt is that for a first go, it's better than I ever thought it would be. When you put it on, when I compare it to R22, this R222 is like a, you know, you put it on, you wipe it off, you don't let it cure. The one we've made today, definitely being solvent heavy, you put it on and you want it to haze, and it will haze up. It's nowhere near, once you lay it out, it's nowhere near as greasy as the R22. As it starts to haze and you can buff it off, it definitely beads better than the R22. The R22 doesn't bead well at all, but I loved it, the look it gives the car. So I've got to kind of make a decision. Where do I want this wax to go actually? Because one thing I think a show wax is never going to do, it's never going to be able to compete with the hydrophobic stuff that's out there in the silicon polymer world. You know, I think the silicon polymer sealant world has got waxes beaten on beading. I don't know actually. I think it's got it beaten on beading and durability maybe. I don't know. So I guess I've got to kind of think long and hard about what I want from this wax, and then try and move the formula, you know, the ratios, adjust them to try and move the wax in that direction. So what I really want is I want something that gives a great finish. I'd like it to be able to do a bit of beading as well, you know, I think that's important, but the finish is good, but I don't want this to be sitting there, you know, going rock hard and then being horrible to buff off. I want you to be able to put it down, for it to just start to haze, and then you buff it off literally after 1, maybe 2 minutes. That's the kind of thing that I want, and I want it to be really nice to buff off. So yeah, I'm going to have a think overnight tonight, and then dust down and go again tomorrow. So this is our first one. We're going to be doing this is Forensic 001. We're going to be doing loads of videos now. They'll be shorter. The next one will be, here's our formula, here's our blends, our ratios, here's the finished product, here's what it looks like done, and try and get each iteration out just a couple of minutes. But obviously it's been the first one was an important one. So yeah, and the most important thing for me is I probably need a lot of help and advice from anyone that's got knowledge. So any comments you've got in the channel about where you think the wax should go and etc., let me know. And any gaffes that I've made, you know, lots of things probably done wrong. But the irony was, I think at the end, somehow, probably more by luck than judgment, we got a wax that certainly doesn't feel too hard or candle-like. It's quite buttery and grainy. It doesn't feel a million miles away from the R22 or the Pete's 53. It smells very solvent heavy though, like the colonite. So I think I need to factor that in, that I've got a solvent heavy wax, and that solvent needs to evaporate out to give me that kind of protective finish. So that's something to think about. Okay, thank you.